Have you noticed alpacas and llamas are very popular these days? They're all over social media. They're all over consumer good items. You can buy mugs and pajamas and socks and pillows and greeting cards. They're on, and wallpaper. I saw it on wallpaper the other day. They're pretty much everywhere. They're pretty cute critters, there's no doubt. I get dozens of calls a month about people wanting to bring an alpaca home. But before you pull a Phil Dunphy and bring one home to your modern family, there's some things you should know. In this video, I go over the 5 top things you should know before you bring an alpaca home. Hi, I'm Janet, the owner of Green Gable Alpacas in Prince Edward Island, Canada. Join me as I explore all things alpaca, from farm to yarns and everything in between. If you like what you see here, please give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, or subscribe. And with that, we'll get started. Number 1, you can't have just one. It's kind of like those potato chips that seem to find their way into my grocery cart every week. I can't just have just one of those. I have to have multiple. And although alpacas can be addicting, the reason you can't have just one is that they're a herd animal and they will do much better in a larger group. I recommend a minimum of 3 to 5 of the same sex and same age if you're just getting started. Number 2, you need to have a long-term view. Alpacas can live a long time. They can live to be 20 or 25 years old. So if you're just starting out with alpacas and you get some younger animals, between 2 and 5 years old, they're going to be around with you for a long time. So you need to plan on your retirement together. 3, you're going to need a good stylist because you're going to have hay in your hair a lot. Sorry, I'm not talking about a stylist for me. You're going to need a shearer for your alpacas. Alpacas don't shed. Their fiber grows continuously, and so they do need to be shorn. Being accustomed to or native to the South American Andes means that their fleece, their fiber is quite insulating, and they're not accustomed to the types of heat and humidity that we can get here in North America, so they do need to be shorn annually. I do recommend that you shear in the spring, May, June, depending on where you're located. If you're in a warmer climate, you might shear earlier in the year. But what you need to do is when you start thinking you're going to have alpacas, you need to think about who's going to shear your animals for you. Shearers can be hard to come by and they can get very busy at shearing time of year. So speak to your mentor or speak to the individual that you're going to purchase your animals from, and they can help. Typically, they can help hook you up with a good shearer. Number 4, spit. Spit happens on an alpaca farm. All alpacas spit. Llamas spit too. Spitting is a very important part of their communication system. It means back off, you're not respecting my space. However, spitting at people is not something that they do naturally. They are not born spitting at people. They are born spitting at one another though. So spitting at people is a learned bad behavior. You can come nose to nose with alpacas and they're not going to spit at you unless you've done something to deserve it. I get lots of folks who come to the farm and ask the question about spitting, especially when they meet Griswold, my llama, because llamas have a bit of a reputation, which I don't think is really deserved. What I think has happened is that llamas were imported to North America prior to alpacas, and oftentimes they were in petting zoos where people would be able to interact with them very closely, young children as well. And individuals who don't necessarily understand their body language would probably try to approach them and pet them and hug them and all those kinds of things. And alpacas and llamas are pretty intelligent individuals, and they would learn very quickly. If they spit, everybody would go away. So they would learn to spit preemptively. So appropriately socialized alpacas and llamas won't spit at people unless you do something to deserve it. But they will, however, spit at one another. That being said, I have yet to meet an alpaca farmer who has not been spit on. Now, being spit on is different from being spit at. It's easy to be spit on at feeding time, because they're competing for the food and you might be in their way. But being spit at is different. I have been spit at, but when I got spit at, I actually deserved it. Number 5, finally, they're just not that into you. Don't take it personally. Alpacas are not cuddly. It's really a shame. They're very cute looking. They look like they should be cuddly, but most of them are not cuddly. Alpacas have personal space issues. If you watch them interact with one another, you'll notice they don't like it when another's in their personal space. That's why they spit. That's what number 4 is all about. So, well, most of them are very curious. They'll come up and check you out. Given the choice, most of them would prefer you not touch them. Now, you can train them to tolerate touch. Some of them are more open to that than others. You can absolutely train them to wear a halter and you can lead them and all that kind of stuff. But typically in an open space, if they're given the opportunity, if you reach out to touch them, more often than not, they're going to back away. That's just what they're like. So if you really want to touch alpacas, you might need to get one of these. These are amazing, by the way. So there you have it. My top 5 things you need to know before you bring an alpaca home. Yeah, but I think I'd add one more thing. You should find a mentor. So find somebody who you feel comfortable speaking to, who you can be open with, somebody who's been around a while and has learned a few things, but also somebody who's quite prepared to say, I don't know, because none of us have all the answers. Most importantly, it needs to be somebody you feel comfortable with and asking questions of. In my experience with farming alpacas and working with new owners who are interested in farming alpacas or owning alpacas, I find that the single biggest determinant of whether or not they're going to be satisfied with alpaca ownership and whether it's going to be a long-term relationship for them is how realistic their expectations are when they start their ownership journey. I find that those individuals who have realistic expectations about what the animals are and what they aren't before their animals actually come home have a higher chance of having a long-term relationship with them. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.